detail, then dial your operator.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.
Good morning and welcome to this week's edition of The Mediator with me, your host, Brian West, here to give you the top 8 headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. As usual, I'll give you the top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made it first. Then we may do a movie clip, a skit, a trailer, or something that's going on in the community, or some pictures. And then I'll give you the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. So we got a good deal. So let's get to it. Story number 1. 3 trials rescheduled because of COVID-19. COVID-19 seems to be on everyone's mind these days and is even causing problems in the court system as 3 trials had to be rescheduled. People all across the world and locally are not only COVID-19 fatigued, but a large majority are searching and waiting for a light at the end of the tunnel. This story, along with many other COVID-19 stories, are still developing as so many people are waiting for this just to be over. Story number 2. Delphi Retirees still making the news, still in the headlines. A few weeks ago, Delphi Retirees were in the headlines. As for now, the story is still gaining some steam. The company's retirees are in a fight for their full pensions, according to a local article. There is also concern about promises made by political leaders when GM was bailed out and Delphi went into bankruptcy protections in 2009. The argument is that former President Barack Obama ignored Delphi in comparison to GM. 1,500 local people were affected, along with more than 20,000 pensions. There's more details inside of this developing story that have a lot to do with decisions made by the courts and retirees. This story is still developing. Story number 3. YSU has reached an agreement, but there are still some concerns. COVID-19 has been a thorn in the side of an already complicated education system. As negotiations concluded with a deal to stop YSU from going on strike, the new concern now is how to continue on and keep everyone happy while the country battles through COVID-19. The coronavirus has caused major budget cuts and now has many students reconsidering their goals for a higher education. Money and college debt remains a top concern in this ongoing story. Story number 4. The Valley has gun problems. 328 in the Northern District of Ohio in 2020 were charged in federal firearms-related crimes, according to one local article focusing on gun violence. The goal is to try to crack down on criminals with guns. Gun crimes have been the centerpiece of rising local homicide rates and have many worried that too many guns have already fallen into the wrong hands. There have been numerous reports about victims of gun violence, which also include children being caught in the crossfire locally and in other parts of the country where gun violence has surged. This is one of those stories that continues to develop as so many people are hoping that people would just drop the guns and keep the peace, show some love. Story number 5. Staying online seems to be the plan for Youngstown City Schools. CEO Justin Jennings says he's playing it safe in the fight to protect staff and students in the COVID-19 saga by keeping classes online. The Vindicator headline highlighted the age group of the district's teachers and the growing concern to prevent the virus from spreading. This seems to be his main reason, along with other logistical concerns and displeasures with the data coming in about a rise in COVID-19 cases. This seems to be his reason for keeping classes online for now. So we'll see how this story develops in the upcoming weeks. Story number 6. There is still doubts about election accuracy locally. The process of voting this year in the COVID-19 saga has people doubting the voting process. Delays in large amounts of absentee ballots across Ohio by a private vendor made headlines last week. This article alone has led to growing doubts about this year's voting process. One article says that delays have ranged from 2 days to a week at a time, with the bulk of the pressure on mail-in voting. The doubt is that everyone's vote may not be counted on time. This is another one of those stories that continues to develop as the results get closer and closer, as we get closer and closer to November. So we'll see how this turns out. Story number 7 in the top 2 local headlines and developing news stories that made it in this week. Youngstown coming up $390,000 short on August income tax collections. That's not good news. Area officials are pulling out their calculators and trimming costs due to COVID-19. Even after federal aid poured in, Youngstown is still $390,000 short of its projected budget for August. At the moment, according to the article, the city is 6.1% below its $39,245,000 budget. At the moment, the city's financial director, Kyle Mizek, is expecting to finish the year about $2.5 million to $2.6 million short of its budget. This is another big story that's still developing inside of the COVID-19 saga. Story number 8 in the top local headline and developing news story that made it in this week. Whew. More federal money coming to the Valley. You better believe it. The number is set at $11 million set to come to the Mahoning Valley for a defense contract and a broadband network for the downtown area of Youngstown. The goal is to gear the funds towards an already growing technology sector. According to one local article, the network will serve 212 businesses and create 119 jobs. This is one of those stories to keep an eye on as more and more federal dollars pour into the Youngstown area. Well, those are our top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. I'll be right back with the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories, so don't go anywhere. You're in the Mediator with me, Brian West. I'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
If you need help, then dial your operator.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.
If you want to check out the stories that almost made it in or did make it in, go to our Twitter feed on our website. Check out everything. All of the sources are there. And go to the website. It's method8inc.com, method8inc.com, where you can buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or just sponsor a program.